This is The Weekly Set, an official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com.
I wish I was the monster you think I am.
You have come here to beseech me?
Yes, for your soul.
Madness can be a medicine for the modern world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I'm your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So today we are doing episode 274 of the podcast. We were recording on September 28th, 2020, and we are going to be talking about The Boys Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off, and Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 7, I Am. So those are the episodes we're going to be talking about. Let's get started with The Boys, The Bloody Doors Off. So, yeah, amazing episode, I think, just right off the bat. This is might be my favorite episode of the season so far.
This is certainly the best episode of the season, yeah.
God, so much going on in so many different ways. So, first off, I mean, to keep it loose, let's talk about the facility. We know that Stormfront had this contact with somebody in some facility, and we know that person was Lamplighter.
Yes, we saw that. And it's presented as like a mental health facility.
Yeah. And they sneak in to find out what the fuck's going on there and find out it's filled with soups.
Yeah.
So apparently they're doing some testing on these soups, and we see a scene where just as the boys are going to investigate, and they're Frenchie and Mother's Milk and Kimiko are all inside the facility with Butcher, Huey, and Starlight, who's visiting with them, are all kind of like on the premises but not in the building. They're kind of like in the field watching over. They sneak Frenchie, Mother's Milk, and Kimiko, like I said, into the building. And just as they get there, somebody else shows up. Stormfront herself shows up.
Yes.
And so they're on high guard at that point. She goes in, and we have a scene between her and Lamplighter where we find out kind of what their dynamic is. We had only seen them talking on the phone, and it's clearly Stormfront is like playing the role of the leader here.
Lamplighter is her bitch.
Yeah, pretty much. He does not seem happy with his position. The boys are watching on a security cam, saying like, doesn't that guy look familiar? Who's he with? You know? And we see a scene where basically she's talking to one of the superhero patients or super patients, and he has some kind of like telekinetic ability. He's like floating something, and he says he wants to go home, and they're like, well, not yet, you know? And then he's like, I want to talk to my sister. I'm not going to do anything till I talk to my sister. So Stormfront's all like, well, okay, we'll take care of that. And then she says something to Lamplighter. She leaves. Lamplighter torches him alive, kills him.
Yeah.
We find out this is what his role in this facility is. His role is to take out these experiments that they need to get rid of, basically.
Yeah, the rejects. So basically, this is part of Stormfront's and Vought's by extension. Because, you know, if you think, like, Stormfront is doing this by herself, and Vought
I kind of think she might be. By the end of the episode, based on her explanation, I think this might actually be her pet project.
Remember, Stan Edgar put her in the 7.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how much
even though, like, she does have a checkered past, and that has not gone unnoticed, like, Stan Edgar would not be, like, ignorant of, like, you know, like her past as her past superhero identity, you know.
Yeah, based on where they go at the end of the episode, though, I'm starting to wonder how much control Stan Edgar has.
And somebody had to pay for that facility.
Yeah, but I'm wondering how much control Stan Edgar has over that kind of stuff. On the surface level, he's the CEO. He seems really in control and everything, but when the mission statement of this whole process that Stormfront is heading is to create an army to wipe out other races than white people.
Yeah, like I get it.
Stan Edgar's not white.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Like, so you're saying, like, really, like, he's a puppet and she's running Vought, is what you're suggesting.
I'm thinking there could be something like that, or he is running Vought and he thinks he's in control, but since she's been there since the very beginning, she's got, like, you know, it's kind of like a Hydra in the middle of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they had Hydra secreted members throughout, like a subdivision within S.H.I.E.L.D., and S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't even know it. You know, that's like the Captain America Winter Soldier plot, you know? It could be something akin to that, you know? Where she's got, like, her own
her plot is they know Compound V works exceptionally well on infants, but she wants to be able to turn grown adults into soups at will. And
reliably,
and unfortunately, it hasn't been that simple. Unfortunately, Compound V doesn't work so well on fully grown adults. And so they're trying to perfect the formula to reliably get, you know, quality soups out of grown people. And they said, like, previously, like the Compound V would make an adult, you know, like, either turn them into a complete freak or make them go insane or other, you know,
they just
terrible
side
effects. Yeah. just bad, awful side effects.
Yeah. So this is basically, you know, she wants to basically make an Aryan army of soups.
Yeah.
So she's going to keep doing this testing until they get it right. And then once they get it right, then she can just start dosing all the people that she wants to be soups.
Yeah.
So a bunch of, like, white racist, white nationalist.
Yeah. She's basically going to turn the KKK into soups.
Yeah.
That's her plan.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Now we see, like, we see like a bunch of people who I guess are failed experiments, you know, but there's one soup in there who seems to be a success. And that's Cindy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say love sausage.
Yeah, sure. That's the intent.
No, Cindy seems to be the most successful of the ones. She's actually pretty scary powerful.
She's a telekinetic, so she's got all those scary telekinetic powers.
But on top of that, she's also bulletproof.
Yeah, she's bulletproof. She's basically like 11 from Stranger Things, except, you know, like, dialed.
Also bulletproof.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, pun intended, like, but dialed to 11. You know, like, this is, like, to the extreme.
Yeah, or you could say she's like the kid in Chronicle. She does something similar to him, where he, like, closed his hand and crushed a car.
The first time she shows up, she just makes the guy explode. You know, and everybody's like,
she gets shot at by a guard, and she just shrugs it off, turns around, looks at him, and closes her hand, and he just explodes.
Yeah,
that makes you wonder, could she do that to, say, Homelander?
It makes you wonder. I don't know. Homelander's invulnerable. That guy wasn't, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, but how invulnerable?
Yeah.
Everything has its limits, you know?
But I think she's the one who made the FBI director's or the CIA director's head explode earlier.
Could be.
That would
make
be,
sense.
Yeah, that would be the most logical, especially like if she's under Stormfront's thumb, if Stormfront has some control over her, then, you know, Stormfront could have used her to conduct that hit.
Yeah, but she also didn't recognize any of the boys when they were there, and so that could have been a sign that she knew who they were, but she didn't. So that might not be the case. I don't know.
Well, she didn't. She didn't have to meet the boys for that. she was quite a distance.
The FBI director
away.
Was meeting with the boys when. Well, we don't know if she can do that at a distance either.
I'm pretty sure she can. It's telekinesis.
Yeah, we don't know yet. We don't know the details of it. All we know is that that person's head exploded. Also, we didn't see her blow up someone's head. We saw her just straight up blow up an entire person, body and all.
Yeah.
So
I mean that makes no difference. But anyway,
I still think it might have just been like a bomb planted in that one person's head or something. I don't know.
No,
that's all against the point. We'll find out what's going on with that eventually.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, but let's talk about like the real core of this episode, which is this was a very Frenchie-centric episode.
Yes. Frenchie was front and center. We got his backstory here. We got to see his life before he was involved with the boys. He had like his group, his Golden Girls, as he referred to them.
Yeah, his Golden Girls. His group. They were basically like they're basically robbing banks, and we found out like Frenchie has a talent for taking out soups. Because like when he's caught, like it shows he's going on, like he's preparing for a bank heist. And then the next time we see him in the flashbacks, he's already been captured, you know?
Yeah, he's being interviewed by Grace Mallory.
Yeah, Mallory's interviewing him, and she's interviewing him because of what he managed to do during his attempted robbery, which is he took out a soup called Behemoth, who is powered by rage, and he used weaponized Xanax to calm him down and depower him. And we know, like, obviously that's the Hulk.
Yeah, it's the Hulk analog.
But Mallory sees like he has a talent for taking out and disabling soups. So that's the reason she's interviewing him, because she wants to recruit him for the boys, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure at this point she already has Billy and Mother's Milk.
Yeah, I believe so. Next time we see him, he's already in the boys, and they are too. So we don't know if he's before. I imagine Billy's was like the first recruited.
Yeah, I imagine Billy was the first.
But I don't know between Frenchie and Mother's Milk who was recruited first. But we do get, because when we see them again, like he's been part of the group for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we basically we flash forward to the time when Lamplighter basically goes and murders Mallory's children, you know. We see
before that they're blackmailing him.
Yeah, they're blackmailing him, trying to use him as a mole to get information on the Seven, you know.
Yeah, and Frenchie's job is to kind of follow him, and we know that Frenchie
I love
failed
it because
on his job before.
Mallory expresses some trepidation about it. It's like, you don't back it. She says something like, you don't back an animal like that into a corner to Billy, and Billy just says, "Fuck him, we own him," you know. Yeah. And that's when Mallory, I guess, tells Frenchie to like trail him, because you can tell she's uncertain.
Yeah, we knew about this. We knew about the situation that Frenchie had failed on the job and failed to protect. He wasn't there, you know. But we don't know why. We had no knowledge of that. Well, now we know why, which is what we find out is that
his friend was ODing.
Yeah, so one of his Golden Girls, his Dorothy, was ODing, and he got a phone call, and he was trying to figure out what to do, and he was basically told that he's dying and he needs his help. So he left really quick to help him. Then helped him, and then immediately left again, thereby severing his friendship with them.
Yes.
Unfortunately, like that's something he had to give up, because he knew tailing Lamplighter was still important, but just that small amount of time that he disappeared was enough that Lamplighter had, exited out of the club, found Mallory's children and murdered them.
Yeah.
Grandchildren, and murdered them. And we find out in a big change from the comics, and a big change from what we perceive to be the truth.
The interesting thing about that is that when Frenchie and Lamplighter reunite inside the hospital, we find out that Lamplighter is actually racked with guilt over what he did.
Yeah, that's the big change. The big change from the comics. In the comics, Lamplighter intentionally murdered these children. He was enjoyed it. That was his purpose. In the show, which is a much more nuanced and better approach, I believe.
Yes.
He was trying to he thought he was killing Mallory, and he didn't know he was killing the children. Probably he was set up by Vought, Vought probably knew that it was her children, and, set up something like that, or I don't know, maybe not.
If you go down that, then you would have to postulate that Vought knew about the deal he made with the boys in the first place, and that they were
that might not be the case then. Yeah. But anyways, he thought he was killing Mallory and didn't realize that he was killing the children until it was too late.
Right.
And so he's been racked with guilt about it. And this comes out, and as both sides of this come out, not just him being racked with guilt with it, but also Frenchie's true story of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Lamplighter asked Frenchie, he said, one thing I keep asking myself is, you were there, you could have stopped me, so why didn't you stop me?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you stop me?
And when Frenchie kind of reveals the truth about what happened, about, the fact that his friend was ODing and that he had left for that short period of time for that, Mother's Milk says, why didn't you say anything? We would have taken you off the hook for it at this point.
Right.
And he says, what makes you think I wanted to be off the hook?
Right. Frenchie's racked with guilt because, Frenchie is not only blaming himself for what happened to Mallory's grandchildren, but he's also blaming himself because he basically ruined a friendship,
Yeah. Well, he saved his friend from an overdose, then lost that friendship forever to get back on the scene, which didn't end up helping anything because Lamplighter ended up, escaping and killing those kids. But then on top of that, like that friend that he had saved and now has lost as a friend ended up ODing about a month later.
Yeah, ended up dying, and they never got to repair that friendship,
So it's like a huge multifaceted tragedy for him.
Right.
It's the tragedy for everybody involved that's in this room, but for him in particular, it's like a multifaceted tragedy.
Yeah, it's multifaceted, exactly. And I thought that was interesting. That's the kind of character drama that gives the show depth, beyond like, Homelander's evil. He crushed this guy's skull at the beginning of the episode while he was getting it on with Stormfront. That's shock value stuff. But like,
it's all good, but you need the nuance too.
Yeah, you need the nuance.
Didn't really have.
Yeah. The comic was like all like the first scene of the episode, like nonstop for an entire comic series. This has that stuff, but it also has the nuance, the character drama that really elevates it. And that's the stuff that is the reason why I think this is such a good show.
We should talk about how this conversation between Lamplighter and Frenchie, that all these revelations came out, is because the boys sneaking through the hospital, they crossed paths with Lamplighter, and Lamplighter and Frenchie recognized each other.
Yeah.
And Lamplighter was going to turn to torch them, and the boys were quick enough to stop him. But in the ensuing kind of fight, they ended up blowing the door off of, you'd mentioned the soup in there, Cindy, the telekinetic scary one. Yeah. She got released from her cell.
Yeah, they just happened to accidentally blow the doors off of, the most powerful soup in there.
Yeah.
And Cindy immediately goes ahead and she releases all the other soups.
Well, like at first she's like walking towards Lamplighter like she's got some grudge. I mean, he's like, "Hey, I slipped you extra food and stuff. I like you, And then she asks like the boys, like, "Who are you?" And she's like, like, "You're with him." And they're like, "No, we, do whatever the fuck you want to him. We don't care. Like, kill him."
And she's like, "Well, you're a liar. Then why are you wearing those outfits?
Why are you wearing those scrubs? Like you're part of this." And that's when one of the guards shows up, starts shooting at her, does nothing to her, and she, as we'd mentioned, she explodes him, and in a rage opens up all the cells and lets out all the other soups.
Yeah.
So now it's just pandemonium. It's a soup prison riot, basically.
It's soup prison riot, so while this is happening, Billy and Starlight are waiting outside with the van, and Billy, Starlight, and Huey are waiting.
Yeah,
and
Starlight and Billy are like outside and Huey's inside the van.
And Starlight and Billy are getting some good quality, bonding time.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely like a relationship we haven't explored yet.
Mm-hmm.
But like Starlight is calling Billy out on his bullshit. Like I love like she's like, oh I get it. The only good soup is a dead soup, huh? And he just says, "Your words, not mine."
Yeah. But like while this is happening, and because of the prison break, so a little bit ways down the line from that, one of the soups that's escaping is like walking through the field, and they notice him, and they're just trying to kind of play it cool, like they don't care, you know, and he's like scared, clearly, and they're trying to calm him down, saying, just keep walking on down, we don't care, you can leave, you know, and he just lets out like a kinetic wave of energy that knocks Starlight and Billy back, but then also like flips the van that Huey was inside of.
Yes.
So
and
they
Huey
end up
gravely injured.
They get Huey out of the van, but he's got like, you know, a piece of shrapnel in his gut.
Yeah.
It's not good. And they want him to Billy wants Starlight to like cauterize the wound using her powers, but her power is based on like robbing energy from something.
It's absorbing electricity. She
absorbs light energy and then can use it. And she already used her powers to open up the gate, and there's nothing for her to drain from.
Well, she said like that guy, like his power like knocked out all the electricity in the area, so she has nothing to draw from.
Yeah, so she can't do anything about it. And so they're panicking now, and they're heading to try to get Huey somewhere where they can kind of save him. Back to the facility, I guess. So with this whole riot thing going on, Lamplighter and the boys basically form an uneasy standoff partnership, temporary partnership, to get themselves kind of locked away to safety. Well, this is where the conversation happens that reveals all of this information that we had mentioned earlier. But in addition to that, we get one of the greatest scenes in which a tentacle-like appendage comes shooting through the window of their room and wraps around Mother Milk and is taking him, and Kimiko runs out the door and neutralizes the threat. Only for us to learn, to Mother Milk's horror, that appendage belonged to Love Sausage, the best super ever. Love Sausage is a super who was in the comics as well, and this is how they introduced him in this show, with a extraordinarily long genitalia that he can control and elongate even further. And that was the tentacle-like appendage that was wrapped around Mother Milk.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
The best was Mother's Milk's reaction to it, because he was like, "So that was his penis," and Frenchie's like got his hand on his shoulder, and he's like, "Be open-minded."
yeah, be open-minded.
Which goes back to the whole point that like Frenchie's crew, the one guy that ended up, you know, ODing in that at that point that we had mentioned, and the girl that was with him, those were both like implied to be like not just his crew, but also like his sexual partners, like both of them.
Yes.
And there was also a scene in one of the flashbacks, the one where they were blackmailing Lamplighter, where Mother Milk had mentioned that he was getting married, and Frenchie said, "Oh, we got to throw a bachelor party. What do you think about transgender hookers?"
Yeah.
So it is just kind of a tied into that, like in even like a funny little gross out moment had like a tie-in like that. So I thought that was that shows the level of detail in the writing of the boys, that even like some throwaway joke is also kind of tied in.
Right, absolutely. So we should talk about what's happening real quick with A-Train, The Deep, and Queen Maeve, because that's all kind of converging together. So basically, real quick, Queen Maeve recruited The Deep to basically get the black box from the airplane that she and Homelander, basically let crash after they botched the rescue attempt.
Yeah, he couldn't find it, but he found something else.
Yeah, but he found something. He found like a camera,
like a GoPro, with the footage on it of what happened. Which is even better than the black box, because the black box wouldn't have direct footage of what happened inside the cabin of the plane. Right,
exactly. So now she's got direct footage. She's going to release that to embarrass Homelander, but Elena finds it, and she's horrified because, what Queen Maeve doesn't realize is that, yes, it looks bad for Homelander, but it looks bad for her too, because
she went along with it.
She went along with it.
Reluctantly, but still.
Yeah.
And so this is like, for us, knowing kind of the full weight of Homelander and what his presence means, that like, she can't go against it because it's certain death. Like, she has no way to counter him. There's nothing nothing she can do. And we understand that. And we've already been prepped for that through like when that scene originally happened and everything. We know what's going on there. But to anybody else, they're not going to be able to take their emotions away from it. Like Maeve's girlfriend isn't going to be able to take her emotions out of that. And she's going to, see the fault in Maeve there as well. So that's where, Maeve's like trying to, it's an interesting scene because Maeve's like trying to kind of defend herself. Like, I had no choice. There's nothing I could do. And I want to go after him. And this is how I'm going to go after him. And he keeps talking and her girlfriend's just staring at her.
Right.
So it's kind of an interesting little piece about accountability there, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little piece of it. Yeah. I mean, so that happened. While the Deep is also providing that evidence to Queen Maeve, he also approaches A-Train. Having heard that A-Train was recently kicked out of the Seven, the Deep starts trying to recruit A-Train into the Fresca cult.
Yeah.
So basically now the Deep is like invested in this cult, and now he's recruiting other people into it, And so he convinces A-Train to join him at this dinner with like the leader of the cult.
Alistair Adana.
Yeah, Alistair
Adana. We only met in the last episode. We saw him in a commercial with the Deep. And now we actually get like a scene with him where we see that he's got, at the very least, a very big information network.
Yes.
Because he has information on A-Train. He knows that A-Train is 7 figures in debt, that he had a heart attack. He knows like a lot of details about what's going on with A-Train. And A-Train, upon hearing this, is immediately on the defensive and like, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. And Alistair's like, no, sit down. I can help you. I can get you back into the 7.
Right.
I can fix
basically
this.
The same promise he made to the Deep. I could get you back into the 7.
Yeah. And the Deep basically, they say we're going to have like a truth off or something. And
he says, I'm going to reveal my truce and then you're going to tell me your truce.
Yeah. And he says like that he hated A-Train and thought he bullied him and that he fantasized about drowning him. So A-Train's now like, what the fuck, trying to deal with the Deep after that information, and also the fact that now he sees this cult leader's information network having so much over him is kind of like feeling a bit uneasy in his situation.
Right.
While that's happening, because this is all like picking up basically from the last episode where this all was happening with the Deep and Maeve and the Deep encountering A-Train, all of that was happening on the film set.
Yes.
For the same movie that they were filming in last week's episode.
Like I think the movie's supposed to be called like Dawn of the 7.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And we saw a lot of that in the last episode, and now they're still in the set for that, so we're seeing them there, but we're not seeing them filming anything in this episode. But we see them on the set. And then in addition to all of them, there's 2 other supers on the set. We should mention that they're looking for Starlight.
Oh yeah, they're looking for Starlight, who went MIA. She had her chip taken out, and we know she ran off with Billy and his gang.
Yeah, so there's like constant like, where the fuck is Starlight?
Yeah.
But then the other 2 supes that are prominently on set as well are Homelander and Stormfront.
And we should talk about that more so from Homelander's perspective, because now Homelander's in love. Isn't it cute?
Yeah.
But he's like the psycho boyfriend who, like, if you leave him or you lie to him, he just gets like psychotically attached. There's the point where like he's telling Stormfront he has something to show her in his trailer, and she's wanting to leave because she wants to check up on her experiments, but she tells him she's got to meet with her social, people at the tower, and she blows him off and she just leaves, and he goes in and it's just like flowers, roses with like had a great time, and he's just like staring at them, and then when she doesn't come back, like he's getting more impatient and he's just staring at him, and then the next shot is like the trailer's like burnt down and like there are firefighters like hosing it off and shit.
Yeah, other parts of the set are burnt down too.
Yeah.
and she shows back up and she's like, what happened here? And he said, electrical fire.
Yeah.
He confronts her. He's upset,
He's like, you remember you told me how you don't break easily? Let's test that. He's getting more and more like impatient with her,
Yeah, we get another scene with them later because she leaves again. Obviously, we didn't even mention that she had returned to the facility after all of the soups had gone loose, killed a bunch of the patients, zapped Cindy, probably thinking she'd killed her too, and confronted Lamplighter, who covered not only for himself but also for the boys.
Yes.
Hiding that they were there and stuff, and covered what ended up happening there. And so then she left again, and this, of course, is like, further infuriates Homelander when they have a scene again, because now, like, she's blowing him off twice in a row, basically. And he's pissed off, and he's looking like murderous, like he's about to kill her now. And she ends up confessing her whole story to him. She takes him to her room in Vought Tower. She shows him her old costume as Liberty. But even more important than that is she pulls out some photos and shows that she was actually born in 1919, and she is the first soup, the first person that had the successful dose used on her by Vought, who turns out to be her husband, her old husband. And so she was born in 1919 in Berlin. She was a literal Nazi.
She was literally a Nazi.
Yeah, not Nazi meaning like, like how somebody says, like a fascist, or because she's racist or something. I mean, like, literally a member of the Nazi party in Berlin during World War II.
Yes. And she also may be the first soup. Yes.
They say that the first person that Vought gave a dose to. So either the first soup or, maybe, I don't know, where did Vought get the serum from, It could have been another soup that was, an alien, or I don't know.
We have
naturally occurring that.
We have no idea how he invented compound B.
We just know she's the first person to be dosed with it successfully.
Yes.
And so she's apparently immortal. That's what we kind of learned from that.
Yeah.
There's also the implication that Homelander might be too.
Yeah, she doesn't age. And there's implication that Homelander might not age.
Because when she reveals all of this information, she also unveils her plan moving forward, which is that it's, as we mentioned before in previous podcasts, how she kind of, like, her first meeting with him was, she said, like, your eyes are much bluer than I imagined and stuff, like these comments like that we had kind of had picked up on, had mentioned in earlier podcasts. Well, yeah, Homelander is basically her Ubermensch. He's the figure that we mentioned that either she or Vought had a plan to create an army of Aryan soups to basically wipe out every other race. Like, meaning, I guess, either maybe all other that aren't even soups, or just straight up non-white people, or some combination of those two. But she's definitely racist, and we've seen that before, so I imagine, she wants an all-white world of soups led by Homelander as the Ubermensch, and that's her kind of big plan, and she lays all of that out for Homelander, saying that, like, how important she is to him, and then that's what she's been doing when she was blowing him off in this episode. And they cut to Homelander to get his reaction, and he just starts, like, making out with her.
Yeah.
So he's all on board to be Ubermensch.
Yeah, he's all on board with this.
So that's terrifying. Meanwhile, Huey is in the hospital. They ended up getting him to a hospital. They carjacked the guy. They tried to do it peacefully, but he, like, under the cover of being, like, commandeering his vehicle, but he pulled a gun, and Starlight ended up having to use her powers against him, draining some power from his car and hitting him with it, and ended up killing him. So now she's kind of dealing with the guilt of that as she's, taking Huey to the hospital with Billy, and they're watching over him, and their relationship has kind of now evolved, where before she was kind of like hitting at him and he clearly hated her and stuff. Now they're kind of bonding over an injured Huey.
Yeah. I like the revelation that, like, Huey uses children's shampoo.
Yeah, like strawberry smoothie scented shampoo.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very funny. Like so they're bonding over that, and it seems like we have kind of a peace in their relationship, at least for now, at least at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But with Billy's hostility towards anything soup, and his inability to even, be able to stay with his ex-wife because he couldn't get over her son, that tells me that this is a uneasy peace that won't last. Also, Frenchie and Mother's Milk, they kind of, all of them kind of get out of there, and they call Grace, Mallory.
Yes, they call Mallory because they have Lamplighter. And Mallory wants to kill him, but Frenchie has other ideas.
Yeah. Basically, Lamplighter is like sitting in the back of an ambulance, and they open up the door, and she's kind of holding a gun on him, and she's about to kill him, and he's telling her to do what she needs to do, and saying that, you know, like, you can do that. You'd be doing me a favor. Frenchie says, you know, doing that would be like kind of letting him off the hook. What killing him isn't going to be as bad as what he's dealing with right now, and is basically like saying that he's begging for Lamplighter's life, and now that means that they'd be able to use him.
Right.
Like they had tried to before, but now kind of with a more willing Lamplighter, now that he's racked with guilt about what he had done before.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And lastly, we have a scene at the very end where we see that Cindy is, you know, who appeared to have been killed by Stormfront, is perfectly fine. And,
perfectly fine. And, she's loose upon the world now.
Yeah, and she's hitchhiking.
You know, so we don't know what she's gonna do.
Like I said, she might be more powerful than anybody else we've seen.
That's a wild card. That's a wild card that's on the loose, so we don't know what's gonna happen next. And it's sad that we only have 2 episodes of the season left. So I think like some major shit is going to go down in these next 2 episodes.
Oh yeah. Well, when they announced the controversial release structure for these episodes, that they were not dumping all the episodes at once, but releasing the first 3 and then doing week to week, and the ridiculous controversy that spread after that with people downvoting the show because of its release schedule being week to week, which is, we've talked about before, as being ridiculous. When all of that happened, the reason they did it, everybody, even though like the fans that were protesting it were saying it was because Amazon was being greedy for some reason, the reason that was officially being touted for this, because Amazon does release shit all at one go as well. They did that just recently with Utopia. They just released that whole series in one go. But the reason they're apparently not doing it now is because Eric Kripke, the showrunner of the show, had said that all of the episodes are big and that he wanted time for people to digest what's happening in each episode. He didn't want to just have it pushed out all at once. He wanted everybody to have time to digest these big moments that were going to be happening throughout the show, throughout the season. Before, like the last couple of episodes, it's felt like, yeah, they're pretty big, but I don't know if I needed like a week between each one or something. But like after this episode, I feel like I kind of almost do need a week between this and the next one to kind of digest everything that happened. This is the first time where that really feels like, oh yeah, this is definitely the case. Like I am kind of glad that I have to wait a week. You know, I don't want to kind of binge through this right now.
Right.
So yeah, so 2 episodes left. Quick note is that we're not going to be talking about this or Lovecraft Country next week. Next week is our 275th episode, and as tradition, we are going to be doing Advocates of Great Television. There'll be more details at the end of the podcast about that. But because of that, we're not going to be talking about The Boys next week or Lovecraft Country. But the week after, we're going to be talking about just The Boys, talking about the last 2 episodes of the season. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about the last 3 episodes of Lovecraft Country. So basically next week, Advocates of Great Television. Week after that, last 2 episodes of The Boys. Week after that, last 3 episodes of Lovecraft Country.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know, just to let you guys know ahead of time why we're not going to be talking about either of those shows next week, and why we're not going to talk about Lovecraft Country the week after. That's just how we have it scheduled out. But yeah, that's it for The Boys. Now on to Lovecraft Country. This is a show, this episode is something that we can't, I don't think, like really just break down by the events. It just kind of goes so off the rails.
It's pretty surreal, right? So you have a good 30 minutes. That's a normal episode, basically, in structure. You know, basically like plot stuff. And then you have like the last 30 minutes.
Crazy town.
dedicated to Hippolyta's journey, let's just say, for lack of a better word. She goes on like an amazing trip.
We can wrap up the first 30 minutes real quick, which is that Hippolyta is investigating coordinates that she got off of that artifact that she had taken from the house.
Yeah, the orrery.
Yeah, the orrery from Letty's house. She had finally found out how to open it up, and she got like a key and coordinates from it. And so she's taking off, and she's taking Woody. And at the same time as she's taking Woody, the car, to go check that out, Atticus and Letty were going to try to take the car to look up somebody from Tick's mother's side of the family so they could get some more information, because they realized after Letty has a dream, the same dream that Tick had, basically, which is also like a big implication, a pretty obvious implication, that she's pregnant with Tick's child.
Yes.
But she has a dream in which it's the exact same dream, basically, that Tick had had.
It's the place is burning. And the woman,
Hannah, Tick's like ancestor.
Yeah, Hannah. She's escaping, but this time she's escaping with the book of names.
Well, she was before, but Tick didn't pick up on that.
Okay, that must have been it, because Tick seemed surprised at that when she told him, and I thought
it was. I remember it from the first scene,
because I was like thinking to myself, I thought I remembered it correctly, because I was thinking to myself, she always had that book, and I was wondering in that scene when Tick was like, wait, I was like, wait, did Tick not notice that?
Yeah, I think he just didn't notice it. I think his attention was more focused on.
I was like, did he not notice, or is my memory just bad?
I think it needed to be an outside person, because he was too focused on her because it was his ancestor.
Right.
And so he missed the other obvious thing that was right in front of him. But Letty was able to pick up on that because she didn't have a personal stake.
Right.
So by doing that, they realize, oh shit, the Book of Names didn't burn down. This whole time, Christina has been looking for these missing pages from the Book of Names to steal them and use them, thinking that was all that was left of it, and that she'd get all this magic from that. Well, a few missing pages, fuck that, they have the whole fucking book somewhere. So now they realize that, and they're like, oh, we're going to get a huge head up on Christina on this, and a huge jump in the power race here, because we can get the whole fucking book.
Right, exactly.
So they figure that out. They go to see Montrose to figure out more information about his mom's side of the family, Tick's mom's side of the family, so that they can find out what happened to the book. And in doing so, Tick discovers that his father is gay.
Yes.
He doesn't react very well.
No, he doesn't take it very well. It basically brings up, his feelings of pent-up anger and rage at his father that he's had all along, but it just brings those feelings back to the surface, making that discovery. What's
complicated about this is, on one side, Tick reacts like kind of badly, in the sense of like he uses the F word against his.
Oh yeah. He definitely like has a very homophobic reaction.
Yeah,
to finding out for
but
sure.
Then after he leaves and he's like raging, trying to kind of calm himself down, he kind of reveals to Letty that what really is bothering him isn't so much that his dad is gay, but that his whole like the abuse and stuff that he suffered in his childhood from his father was like something that he understood as his father trying to toughen him up. And he hated his father for it, but he understood like a reasoning for it, and that now like it just puts it all into question, that it was his father's way of like making sure he wasn't gay or something, and that's what he thought by toughening him up,
Well, it could have been that. We don't know, like, what he's just guessing.
Yeah, that's kind of now how he's reinterpreting his whole childhood. So
right. We don't know what his father's real intentions were.
Yeah. So that's why he's so upset now, is because it's like it's reframed his whole childhood on him. And now he's like everything's kind of messed up in his head. He doesn't know what's going on. He leaves. Letty off screen was able to talk to Montrose and get some information. That's why Letty and Tick went to borrow Woody so that they could go and visit his family. But when they arrive, Hippolyta, I should say, is about to leave herself. And they're like, well, we needed to use Woody. And she's like, well, too fucking bad. It's my goddamn car. And so this kind of like puts a dent in their plan. But in addition to that, Ruby is there. She's going to be taking care of Diana. Well, Hippolyta is gone on this road trip she's taking, under the cover that she's going to be doing work for the book, but what she's actually doing is checking out the coordinates from the Ori.
Yeah.
So Tick can't use the car. He's got to take the bus. So he tells Letty, we can get some bus tickets and get there. But he ends up telling her that she should probably stay, that he can go on his own and she could stay and with her sister and try to solve her relationship with her sister. So Letty decides to stay with Ruby and the kids, with Diana and her friends and everybody, so that she can try to repair her relationship with Ruby.
Right.
Tick goes off to visit his relatives on his mother's side. He sees a photograph, and there's a birthmark in the photograph that he has the exact same birthmark on him. So he realizes something's like kind of going on there. Ruby and Letty are working out their shit. Nothing really too interesting there besides just family drama. And Hippolyta is doing the more interesting thing in this episode. She arrives at this, like, it's kind of almost like it's a, what do you call it? A observation. What do you call that?
I don't know. Eureka?
An observatory. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. She's in an observatory.
She arrives at an old observatory with some like crazy looking, technology, weird technology, like 50s sci-fi-ish looking technology, set up in this thing. And she gets to work like fiddling around, trying to figure out what's going on with this. She gets the machines all up and running, but hasn't done anything yet. And she hears some people outside, and there's 2 police officers seemingly sent by Captain Lancaster, the guy with the black torso, that apparently killed William, which I guess we could say also there was a brief scene with Ruby and Christina where Ruby is educated by Christina about where their body morphing stuff comes from. And it's not like just the male form of Christina or the white form of Ruby. There's actually 2 people being kept in that locked room. One is William, and the other is the person that Ruby transforms into. And they're they're both like dead, but being kept preserved, and their blood is being used for these spells that allow them to transform.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I figured something had to be happening with those characters because, like, it wasn't random that the spell was transforming both her and Ruby into people that we have seen before, who we knew existed pre-existing. It wasn't like,
well, we didn't see the person Ruby transformed into before.
Yes, we did. Oh, absolutely, we did. When they were at the mansion, when they went into that creepy ass town, she was like,
"Oh, was that the crazy lady with that was like in charge of the dogs?"
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't even connect to me. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that absolutely was her.
And William, I think the William from that time was actually Christina, though.
Yeah, I think, because she mentions William being murdered by that police captain. So that could have been her the whole time.
See, I had thought initially that woman was just Ruby's like white form, because I hadn't put that together, that like if she was white, that's what she would look like or something. And that William was the same thing for Christina. If Christina was a male, that is what she would look like.
No, they're taking the forms of like real existing people.
Oh yeah, I know that now. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, that's before this episode. Right, that's what I thought it was.
That's what you thought previously. Yeah. And I can understand that. That makes sense.
It's just because I didn't make that connection with the form that Ruby took. Just because like I guess the woman was so hickish that it was hard to like, like I just didn't recognize her without her acting like she was before.
Oh right, yeah, exactly. And like acting like Ruby, I guess, for lack of a better.
Yeah, I just couldn't put 2 and 2 together, I guess, in that scene. Huh? Yeah, like now the second you said that, I was like, oh wait a minute, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, so the police officers are checking out the observatory that Hippolyta's in, and they find her, and they're pulling their guns on her, and they're asking her questions like why she's there and everything. And it looks like they're just about to like kill her. And Tick shows up and kind of saves her. And they, in the chaos that's going on with Tick and these police officers fighting, the machines gets like activated and stuff starts going crazy, and like a big kind of like portal opens up, like a crack in reality, and it's flashing between all these different, like, you see like space and like the surface of some planet, and all these different things are just like flickering in this like crack in reality. And Tick throws one of the police officers through, and the other police officer is shot by Hippolyta.
Yes.
And so
she shoots one of the officers, and she ends up getting sucked into one of the portals herself.
Yeah, and so the rest of this is crazy.
This leads to the second half of the episode, which is all about her crazy journey.
Like some kind of a metaphysical journey where she's
a metaphysical and like very introspective journey that like really reveals to her, who she is.
She gets picked up by this like black alien robot lady with a giant like helmet shaped fro.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. She's apparently like trapped in this alien like cell, and she's got like these things like implanted in her wrists. These weird electronic things.
Yeah, and she's like trying to get out, and the lady keeps saying, "This isn't a prison.
This isn't a prison." And basically, like, she's trying to break out. She, like, we see multiple scenes of her, like, just trying to get out. Like suggesting she's trapped in there for a long time, and finally, like, she figures out like a way to like get the door open. And she manages to open the door, but like that woman is there, and she basically like paralyzes her with like some force field or something around her.
Mm-hmm.
And basically she just says, like say your name,
She says like, name yourself.
Yeah, name yourself.
And says like, and Hippolyta doesn't understand that, and she's like, who are you and where do you want to be, And so as she's like pressuring her, Hippolyta says like, I want to be dancing on stage with Josephine Baker.
Yeah, in Paris.
Yeah, in Paris. So she just kind of like zaps into dancing on stage with a whole troupe of dancers. With Josephine Baker.
Yeah.
And she has like a whole experience there. It's not like a quick scene of that.
It's like in the spaceship, we get the sense that she's there for a while, like she goes from like, not knowing what the hell's going on to becoming like a regular dancer at this club with Josephine Baker, being part of her crew, to the point where like, like she confides in her and stuff.
At a certain point, like she realizes now that she's gotten what she needed from that experience and that she should move on. And so she's now picked up on the rules of this herself. And she says, I am Hippolyta. And we see her now, she's in like, it looks almost like ancient Egypt, but she's like with a group of warriors, like African warriors about to face off against like Confederate soldiers.
Yeah.
Like a weird alternate reality kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's like you think it's like ancient times, but then it turns out to be like the 18th century.
Yeah, but like an alternate 18th century.
Yeah, it's like an alternate reality or something. But she basically, well, because she tells Josephine Baker, like in the scene before that, she's filled with like anger. She has anger against people who made her feel that way. She has anger against white people. She says, I want to kill white people, and then after she states her name, we see her, transport herself into a situation where she's literally doing that. These Confederate soldiers are attacking, and she's a warrior among warriors, and they're going to war.
Each of these realities that she inhabits is like a chance for her to perfect an aspect of herself.
Right. This is all introspective. This is all her like
metaphysical introspection.
Yeah, revealing and working on aspects of herself.
Yeah, so here she learns to be like a warrior, basically. Not meaning just physically, but like mentally, She learns to embody that. And then as this battle is raging on, she takes a moment and says, I'm Hippolyta and I'm the wife of George. And so we get to see George Freeman again. And it's basically like the first scene we had with them where they're in bed together.
Right.
And
it's the first scene. And then she reveals to him, that she's had this resentment in their marriage for a long time. And that that she's been like she wants to be big, but she's been shrinking herself.
And that he's been letting it happen, or like encouraging it to happen. And he agrees with her and admits that he played that part and apologizes for it. And so it's like, again, it's metaphysical introspection. She's like inhabiting this space and perfecting a part of herself, like getting past her anger and frustration towards him, and getting a new understanding with him. And then she says again, I am Hippolyta, an explorer.
Yes.
And now it's her with George.
George. Exploring the universe, apparently.
Yeah. In like a weird 50s sci-fi-ish way. It's like these astronaut outfits with like, hoop skirts and shit on them. It's just weird, but it fits, This is like, it looks like what Tick's imagination of what that would be, Like we saw Tick's imaginary scene in the very beginning of the series, It kind of like has a similar vein to that. It's just weird 50s sci-fi tropes type stuff, like the weird outfits and stuff. But they explore some planets. She floats around in space. She re-encounters this woman that had set her upon this journey, this alien helmet fro robot black woman lady, who's in the credits listed as Serafina.
Okay, she does. They don't state her name in the actual episode.
Yeah, so it's listed in the credits and like IMDb and stuff. So, but she's listed as Serafina, so maybe we're gonna get more of her. I don't know, maybe not. But anyways, she talks to her and she says, she's thankful that she's been able to kind of perfect herself. And she talks about like if she'd be able to return home. And Serafina's like, of course. And she's like, and you don't need those wrist things either. You're one of us now. You can be with us, or, of course you can return home if that's what you want. And she remarks, how could I possibly fit back into my old self? Like, how could all of this, everything I am now, fit into that? But she says that she doesn't want to return, but she tells Serafina that she has to because Diana needs her.
Right, exactly.
And we don't see her actually return or anything. We just, that's the end of it. And then we have a scene where it shows the observatory again, and that crazy portal closes.
Tick comes out.
Tick is fine. He's still there. He was never sucked in. He was like,
oh, that's true.
There, but the thing closes. But then the craziest thing I think in the whole episode is a tiny little detail in that scene, and that's that as he's sitting in that observatory now with a dead police officer, and he can hear sirens now. So there's like more police outside or something. They're coming. And this portal's closed down and stuff. He picks up a book that, like, I guess seemingly fell out of the portal or something. And the book is called Lovecraft Country.
Yes. Yeah, that's the craziest part.
So this is getting into straight metafiction now.
Yeah, this is getting into metafiction.
So we'll have to see how this applies to it. But basically, this is a big fourth wall break if he actually has a copy of the book that the series is based on.
Right.
So yeah, this is like that Charlie Kaufman movie adaptation, or, it's going into like weird places. So we'll have to see where this goes moving forward. But it's an exciting and absolutely crazy last moment. And the entire last half of the episode was just nuts and completely unexpected.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's also interesting that just like Hippolyta had just become the central character of this entire episode, basically.
Yeah. This was an episode about her primarily.
Yeah, so taking a background character and just turning it into the central character for an episode is kind of interesting. It goes with the kind of structure of the show. The show's kind of episodic.
Yeah, the show is kind of episodic. A show is almost like an anthology when you think about it.
It's like a connected anthology or something. There's like a running story underneath that each episode has its own kind of theme and focus.
And focus. Seems to like every episode now seems to focus on a different character, encountering a different set of, like strange circumstances, even though like everything is connected, it still feels like, in that way, it feels like an anthology story.
It's like the first two episodes were kind of like very Tick focused.
Yeah.
And then the third episode was like Letty's episode.
Yes.
With the house. And then
the fourth episode was, I believe, Ruby's episode. Or what was the fourth episode?
Yeah, I don't remember which one the fourth one was. I don't think that was Ruby's one yet. I think Ruby's was the fifth.
That fifth, yeah.
The sixth was, I don't remember what the fourth was. The sixth was the Korean episode.
Yes.
And then this was the seventh that focused on Hippolyta. Oh, the fourth was the Indiana Jones one.
Yeah, okay. That was the one that went back to being focused on Tick and Letty and stuff. Yeah.
Almost kind of an extension of the third episode, I guess, since it was connected to Letty's house still.
Yeah, it was still connected to Letty's house. But yeah, like overall, it seems to have taken on the shape of an anthology series.
So it's interesting. Yeah. We got 3 episodes left, and we're going to talk about that in 3 weeks. Well, about the last 3 episodes. That's it. Yeah, that's it for Lovecraft Country. All we have left to do is talk about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, what's on the horizon. On September 30th, Wednesday, South Park has their pandemic special coming to Comedy Central. It's a 1-hour episode about the pandemic. So South Park has always kind of been able to stay, not always, but like I think after the first 4 seasons maybe, they started getting very into current events and stuff and being able to get out stuff that's very current. And they've been on hiatus through this whole coronavirus epidemic, but now they're going to have this whole pandemic special, an hour-long thing. So that's going to be really cool to see that. I'm really excited about that, actually. Then on Friday, October 2nd, Monsterland comes to Hulu. That's a new it looks kind of like a fun horror-ish kind of show. It looks like it's not going to be a full-on horror series, but more I don't know, tonally more say a supernatural kind of thing. Not actually structurally like that, but tonally like that. Where it's more kind of a fun adventure with a horror setting. Sunday, October 4th, Flesh and Blood to PBS, Britannia to Epix, The Good Lord Bird miniseries to Showtime, and AMC is getting both The Walking Dead and The Walking Dead The World Beyond. So 2 Walking Dead series.
They're all in.
Yep. Even more so as it goes on, because Monday, October 5th, Soulmates on AMC, Tuesday, October 6th, Next on Fox, Wednesday, October 7th, Doctor Who, The Faceless Ones. That's a miniseries. I believe this is, and they've done this before, where they've taken some old kind of lost episodes that they had found that were not in great condition, and they animated them.
Oh, okay.
They did rotoscoping animation, so that because they were in such bad condition that they weren't really airable. So they did a rotoscoping animation, but with the same sound and everything as some old classic episodes. I believe that's what this is. This is in our group of those lost episodes that were found.
Interesting.
And then on Sunday, October 11th, like I said, Fear the Walking Dead, all back in again. Fear the Walking Dead comes back to AMC. So basically this Sunday, The Walking Dead and The Walking Dead The World Beyond start. Next Sunday, after Fear the Walking Dead starts. Nice. So we're going to have 3 Walking Dead shows going simultaneously, basically. Pretty crazy. So if you're into zombies, you're basically going to have a 3-hour block every Sunday. This is the coronavirus times we live in. Delays and schedules, things, this is what it's led to.
Absolutely.
As I mentioned, next week we're going to be doing Advocates of Great Television because it's episode 275, and every 25 episodes we tend to do an Advocates episode where if you aren't familiar with the show, we each pick a show to discuss, sometimes based on a theme or something, and then we both watch them and discuss them. So we each act as an advocate for a different show. For next week's episode, we are going to be discussing my pick, which is Friday Night Dinner, Season 1, Episode 1, titled The Sofa Bed. That's on Amazon Prime. And Will's pick, The Office, Season 7, Episode 17, Threat Level Midnight, which is available currently on Netflix, unless you're listening to this really late and sometime in 2021, in which case it'll be on Peacock at that point. We were actually kind of worried about that. Will started making his pick, and I'm like, oh, is it still going to be on? Because they have that big deal that's ending. But it is still going to be on for the rest of the year. So check out both of those, and you can listen along with us as we discuss those specific episodes. Again, that's Friday Night Dinner, Season 1, Episode 1, The Sofa Bed, which is on Amazon Prime, and The Office, Season 7, Episode 17, Threat Level Midnight, which is currently on Netflix. That's it. You can reach me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at VoxelHero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to this podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best in genre television.